There are
Yes.
people in our space who say blood markers really don't matter. Like,
Yeah.
Dr. Sean Baker is one that will say, like, if you feel good today, that is your best indication of health tomorrow. We don't know exactly what these numbers mean. They have different contexts for different people on different diets. The reference ranges are totally different. As you guys write about, like there's the normal range and the optimal range, and those are two completely
Sure.
different things. And then there's other people that say no, labs really are important. You need to get them all the time. I am sat firmly on the fence on this one. I can see both sides, and I like both. But what would you say to that? Like, how would you answer somebody who said, like, I don't know that blood labs are really all that important?
Okay. That's it. I would say I am a firm believer that you should never do anything that feels like something you don't want to do. Like, I mean, like if you're, I mean, I don't like to do my taxes, but I mean, there are certain things you have to do. But, like if you hate eating a certain way, even though eating that way is better for you, you eat however you want. It's your choice, your body, you do you, right? Even if I think there's something better you could be doing. So I would never tell anyone what they have to do. However, I think that there are really good reasons to monitor your labs. And I don't disagree on a certain level with what Sean says, that if you feel good, that's one of your very best indicators that things are going well for you. But a lot of people don't feel well, right? And so if you just don't feel well and you don't quite know why you don't feel well, then how are you going to find out if you don't start doing some research? And so that's one thing. And, I know for me, changing my diet was the most powerful thing I ever did in my whole life to better my health. However, I still had some health problems. Losing weight, going keto, however you want to look at it, didn't fix my thyroid. Still had hypothyroidism. I still to this day have hypothyroidism. So, that's something where I wouldn't know how to manage that condition if I didn't do labs. I'm almost 49, right? My hormones are like, they're just freaking out right now. And I did some labs and they made me feel so much better because I spent about 2 years thinking, I think it's perimenopause, but I might just be insane, right? Like, like not quite sure because really it's perimenopause is like the ultimate gaslighter. Like all of any symptom, you're like, is it perimenopause or am I just a bitch? I don't know, right? And so, so I had to look at that. So I think labs can be very helpful because I am a person that thrives on knowledge. I thrive on information, data. But there's one thing we say in the book, which is, or there's a couple things, but one of them is like, you have to get to know what's normal for you. These are averages. These are normal ranges. These are ranges we think are optimal. However, if you feel great, everything else seems to line up, but this one marker is weirdly in this other range, that might just be your normal. And so having a history of blood work can help you so that if you know what your blood work looks like when you feel good, and then you get blood work done later and it's different, well, that's like a little bit of a red flag. That's something to investigate. And then the other thing is, how people say, measure what you measure matters, right? Like, and you should measure what matters. There are some tests, that we say are like key, pivotal, super important. Like, let's say fasting insulin, right? That's a very helpful test, which tells you kind of what your baseline insulin levels are after an overnight fast. But if you said to me, well, why would I bother getting my fasting insulin tested? Because if it's 2 or if it's 200, I don't think I'm going to change anything about my life. I'm not going to do anything differently. I'm not going to use it to educate. Like, I'm not going to use it to inform anything. Then I'd be like, well, then I don't know that it's worth getting that tested either. So So basically, to me, the tests are useful as a guide. They're not like they're not controlling you, but it's like, well, what does that mean? I want to know more. Maybe I can do that. But you also have to be careful not to like get crazy obsessive about it. So it's a balance to be struck where you have to know yourself. Know, do you have additional goals, and might some numbers help you refine how you're going to work on things?
That is so well explained. That's such a Kim Howerton response. That's an Amy Berger response. And is it true that the two of you get confused with each other?
People mix us up all the time.
That's really funny.
It's very flattering for me. I think she's gorgeous and brilliant. So
She is very, very
but
smart.
we've joked about it several times. I think it's because we're both fairly sarcastic brunettes. That's all. That's what I got.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. No, I love it. Like her saying, like a keto diet is for you. It should make your life better. It's not to make you miserable. It's to make you happier. So I love that message.
Yeah.
Okay, so the normal average person, say they look at you and say, oh, you know what? I got labs. I went to my doctor. I did my annual physical. They gave me some labs, so I know exactly what you're talking about. And everything was just kind of in this range. Tell us the difference between what somebody might think of as the normal like blood labs that they're getting from their doctor in like an annual physical type of a scenario, and what you guys are talking about as far as maybe like enhancing that or going above and beyond.
So do you mean the specific, like the tests, or do you mean the general approach?
Could be either one. Could be the tests themselves.
Okay.
I'm looking at my blood labs and I see there's a glucose number, there's an LDL number, and a total cholesterol number.
Okay.
There may be like a T3 number or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like just like basic stuff.
Right. So so the average doctor is going to order kind of a short list of tests, right? Like maybe like a BMP, a basic metabolic panel, maybe a CBC. Almost always. Usually a doctor at your annual will order a BMP, a CBC, basic lipids, and a urine analysis. That's usually what people get. And we bump those up. We say, that's not quite enough. And one of the reasons we say that's not quite enough is in the book we talk about this. If you ever, I've gotten a blood test before that the lab messed up and it came back saying I had a disease I don't have. And I was like, that can't be right. Let's retest that. So we did. And it was like, whoa, no, that was a mix up. Sorry. And then, so you retest when you find out something that's like, really, that seems wrong. But when does the reverse happen? Right? I got a test. It says I'm normal. Okay, like nobody's like, are we sure that's normal? So the reason you want to get like sort of more comprehensive work is you don't want to just look at one thing from one angle. You kind of want to see it from at least two angles, right? So like if you want to know if your liver's working well and you only got one liver marker, well, who knows? But if you got a couple of liver markers, then you're kind of balancing and you can see if something seems in alignment. So I'm like, hey, you need a little bit more of a comprehensive list for more of a cross check. And so that's why a few more, and then there are some tests that I think are important that aren't in a doctor's normal repertoire, like the C-peptide, like the fasting insulin. Those will, guide a little bit more about metabolic health issues. Also, like a basic metabolic panel doesn't include ALT and AST, which are, liver related markers that are going to show you if there's any indication of fatty liver, maybe, right? And so there are just tests that you're like, these are not very expensive to add these tests, so let's look at that. And then in terms of evaluating the tests themselves, like I have this all the time with my parents, right? I'll just throw my parents under the bus. Sorry, guys.
Right.
They're like, we got blood labs. And I'm like, great. And my dad like prints me out a list of the ones that came out of range. And I was like, well, where are the other ones? And he's like, these are the only ones that were out of range. And I'm like, no. Like, I am not practicing medicine. They are my parents, people. I don't do this with other people. I want to like put a disclaimer out there. I don't evaluate people's blood labs. It is out of my scope of practice. But I can look at my family members' blood labs, and I'll be like, no, you have to look at all of them, because just because someone said they're in range doesn't mean they're optimal. And so, so yeah, you have to look at everything.